Part 132. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1311. I frowned and asked, "What happened?" Xiang Yi replied solemnly, "General, I entered the underworld and released the ghosts from the first 3 hells of the 18th hell, and they entrenched themselves near the underworld. I suddenly thought of the last corpse-raising place that Grandpa Zhong told me. Grandpa Zhong did not clearly inform me of this last place to raise corpses. Instead, he said that I would know when the time comes. Is it possible that this last place to raise corpses is Huangquan Minghai? Huangquan originally refers to the underground spring water, and was later cited as the name for the underworld. Huangquan Road has also become the only way to the underworld. However, Huangquan Road is just a road in the 800-mile sand sea of Huangquan. In fact, Huangquan is very big, so big there are no boundaries. And Huangquan Minghai is located in Huangquan. Legend has it that the underworld sea was caused by the protracted war between ancient gods and demons that caused the geology to subside, forming a vast sea. The underworld sea was filled with the energy of chaos, that is, the energy of death. The general's actions are likely to ignite the huge powder keg in the underworld. I am here to prepare you. I nodded and said, I have expected this day for a long time. Give me a few days and I will go to Jingmen City God and Bamang Mountain to borrow troops. Xiang Yi shook his head at me and said, but Jingmen City God and Bamang Mountain are not enough to quell this rebellion. You must completely control the ghosts in the soul of Mount Tai. I frowned and asked, Master, all the ghosts in the soul of Mount Tai? Yes, Mount Tai is actually the real entrance to the underworld. After death, the soul comes to Mount Tai and is bound by the god of Mount Tai, who is Emperor Dongyu. In a sense, the highest ruler of the underworld is actually Emperor Dongyu, but I don't know where he went. After hearing this, I was slightly startled. Where did I go? Isn't that in Tarzan's soul? In fact, the job composition of the underworld is not difficult to understand. If the underworld is compared to a large group company, then Emperor Dongyu is the chairman and major shareholder, but he is the shopkeeper and does nothing. He gives up the voting rights and management rights to the executive president, who is Emperor Fengdu. Standing at the top of the pyramid is Emperor Fengdu, and below are Emperor Dongyu and Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva. The status of these two in the underworld is no less than that of Emperor Fengdu. As I just said, Emperor Dongyu can also be called the highest king of the underworld. Under Dongyu the Great and Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva are the ghost emperors of the 5 directions. Under the ghost emperor are the 10 palaces of Yama, the 3 divisions, and then the 10 great ghost chaos and Yinshui. If you want to control the ghosts in the soul of Mount Tai, you must go to Mount Tai and return the soul of Mount Tai to Mount Tai before you can find a way to control those ghosts. However, there is a huge risk in doing so. If you cannot control it, then all the ghosts on Mount Tai will be lost. The evil ghost will reappear in the world, and it will bring great disaster. I said to Xiang Yi, I want you to meet someone. Meeting whom? Xiang Yi asked doubtfully. I called King Di out. The Qing Emperor's soul floated out from the evil suppressing seal. When Xiang Yi saw the Qing Emperor, he was completely stunned. Dong, Emperor Dongyu. Xiang Yi fell to her knees with a plop and shouted to Qing Emperor very respectfully, I have seen Emperor Dongyu. King Di ignored him, just looked at me and asked, why did you ask me to come out again? Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1312. I told him everything about the conversation I had just had with Xiang Yi. When Emperor Qing heard that I was going to Mount Tai to subdue those fierce ghosts, he raised a disdainful smile and said, Lu Su, I'm not telling you, you are really crazy. If it were before, it would be easy for me to control these ghosts, but look at me now, you ask me to go to Mount Tai with you, isn't that a joke? At this time, the Qing Emperor only had his soul left, and he was no longer the aloof Dongyu emperor before. I have always had a doubt, that is why King Di was sealed in the soul of Mount Tai. King Di glanced at me and said, "This is what I'm asking. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be in such a mess. I didn't know which muscle was wrong at the beginning, and I got on your pirate ship. What did you say? It's all about the greater good. Thousands of years have passed, and I haven't seen the chess game you laid out begin to close." When I heard King Di complaining, I smiled awkwardly and said, "You don't have to tell me this now. I don't know anything about the chess game you are talking about. I used eternal reincarnation to lay out a grand chess game, but I didn't even know the specific content of this chess game." I asked back, "You should know something, why don't you tell me something, so that I won't be confused?" King Di spread his hands helplessly and replied, "Actually, I am not too clear about your plan. You just asked me to give up my position as the Lord of the Underworld, and then break away from the divine position with you. I did listen to you. Although this god has broken free, look at me now. Only my soul is left, and I have lost 2/3 of my magic power." I asked again, "Did you do it yourself or was you forced to be sealed in the soul of Mount Tai?" As soon as these words came out, King Di's expression instantly became extremely serious, and he glanced at Xiang Yi. I said, "He is one of our own, just say whatever you want." King Di replied, "Actually, I was sealed by Emperor Fengdu and Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva. Not only them, the ghost emperors of the 5 directions and the yamas of the 10 palaces also intervened." I frowned and asked, "Why did they seal you? Make you so miserable?" King Di smiled bitterly and said, "You have to know that power can not only make people greedy and inhumane, but the same is true for gods. The higher the position, the more rights they want. You can understand what I mean, right?" Of course I understand what King Di means, but there is a new question before me. I still have a question, that is, all the gods are imprisoned in that land of nothingness. Why are the gods in the underworld not affected? King Di looked at me deeply and said, "Have you ever thought that they have been imprisoned a long time ago, or that they have died a long time ago, and now those, are just their puppets? Or maybe they are, someone else instead?" Hearing this sentence, cold sweat broke out on my body. No wonder there are always wars in the underworld, that's what it meant. This really echoes what Su Tianqian said to me before, the underworld is no longer the same underworld. The gods in the underworld have been replaced by others, so how can it be the original underworld? But who did all this? I asked the question. King Di replied, "It's better that you don't know about this matter. Besides, it's not the time for you to know. When the time is right, you will know even if I don't tell you." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1313. I sighed helplessly. King Di continued, "You told me before that controlling the underworld is the most critical step in your plan. However, with your current strength, it is obviously unrealistic to overturn and control the underworld. So, you'd better find a way to calm down the upcoming conflict in the underworld." I nodded and replied, "I know, but only if you go to Mount Tai with me." The words had been spoken, and King Di had no reason to refuse, so he agreed immediately. After King Di disappeared, Xiang Yi was digesting what King Di had just said. After a while, he said, "Oh no. This is a bit exciting. The team of Underworld has been changed. Who is it? Such a dick." I rolled my eyes and said, "Can you be serious? You go back first. I will go to Mount Tai in the next 2 days. After subduing the ghosts in Mount Tai, I will go directly to the underworld and kill the damn general. Okay, there are too many things going on in the underworld recently. I'm so busy that I don't even have time to have a tryst with the little female ghost. Oh, it's really sad. Xiang Yi is still the same as before, not doing anything right. The conversation I just had with Emperor Qing is absolutely confidential. If any undercover person hears it, he will report it to his immediate superior. However, I have been with Xiang Yi for so long, and I am not worried at all that he will leak the secret, because I understand him and he is on my side. After Xiang Yi left, I lay on the bed and couldn't sleep. The sealing of the Qing Emperor should also be part of my plan. I don't understand, why is controlling the underworld the key to my plan? What were the causes of the previous wars in the underworld? This makes me puzzled. I just forgot to ask Xiang Yi. Forget it, I will ask clearly when we meet next time. What I have to do now is to go down according to my layout. Although I don't know what my plan is, somehow, everything seems to be happening according to the previous script. The next day, I got up and went to the lobby on the first floor of Ji Yuntang. The Pleiades chicken stood on the table and crowed, while Xiao He complained. As for the mermaid jinx, she was already accustomed to human life and she often went out. The female slave had just arrived here and was very curious about everything. Her reaction was exactly the same as when Huaxiu came out of the tomb at the beginning. Lusu. Princess Longji's voice sounded behind me. I turned around and saw Princess Longji standing behind me. She said, "I'm leaving." I nodded and said, "Have a safe journey." Princess Longji smiled and said, "Instead of worrying about me, you might as well worry about yourself. I've calculated that you will have a disaster in the near future. You have to find a way to get through this disaster. If you can't get through it, that's really ridiculous. Am I in trouble? Is it a trip to Mount Tai or a trip to the underworld?" I smiled and said, "Have you ever cursed me like this? I'll leave my master's affairs to you. I will pick her up after I finish the matters at hand." "Okay, your master will be out of seclusion soon. With me by her side, you can rest assured." After Princess Longji finished speaking to me, she whispered a few words to Miao Fengluan. Miao Fengluan nodded and said goodbye to Princess Longji. After Princess Longji left, the female slave came to me and asked, "Do you have any information about the whereabouts of your generals?" Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1314. Yes. I told the female slave exactly what the generals had done in the underworld. After hearing this, the female demon frowned and said, "This general knows that the plan has failed. It seems that he wants to strengthen his own strength through the ghosts in the 18 hells, then enter the sky coffin and put the contents inside come out." I asked, "Why did the general go to Huangquan Minghai?" The female slave replied, "Yinggo is the general who guards the underworld sea. It is because of Jian's soul that he turns into a zombie. The same is true for this general. There is a coffin located in the underworld sea. As long as the general passes through that coffin, the general will become a zombie. You can enter the sky coffin, and I suspect that there is still a soul of Jian in the underworld. In fact, the real evil star is not the general, but the dragon in the coffin. Only when the souls of the ancestors of the 4 zombies return to Jian's body can Jian regain his strength and break the coffin. But now, the female slave is here with me, and the general's plan has failed, so I can only use this method to enter the sky coffin, and give the soul in my body to Jian first, so as to break the seal from the inside of the sky coffin." I pondered for a moment and then said, "I must kill this general to prevent Hu from rushing out of the coffin." The female demon nodded and asked, "You just said, that you want to go to Mount Tai." "That's right, before I deal with the generals, I have to go to Mount Tai." The female slave said that she could also go along and maybe she could help me. I hesitated for a moment and agreed to the female slave's request. Huaxiu also heard our conversation. "Brother Emperor, I want to go too." I looked at Huaxiu, reached out my hand, and gently rubbed her head. Just don't go, I have other tasks to give you. Huaxiu didn't object to having her head touched by me, but being in front of so many people made her a little shy. Xiaohe, on the other hand, was speechless and muttered in a low voice, "You are already 1,000 years old, and you still have to be touched on the head, so embarrassed." Huaxiu glared at Xiaohe fiercely. Xiaohe quickly closed his mouth. "Brother Emperor, tell me, what do you want me to do?" I replied, "You go to Miao and Bamang Mountains and inform Master Ghost and Bamang Ghost King to send troops to help me. You can go with Xiaohe." Huaxiu rolled his eyes and said, "I'll just go by myself. I hate it." Xiaohe became a dislike to everyone because of his bad mouth. I was a little worried that it would be inconvenient for Huaxiu to travel alone, so I hesitated and said, "You go with Ruoheng. I can rest assured that she is by your side." Huaxiu's strength cannot be said, but I am afraid that she will get lost and not be accustomed to modern life. Facts have proved that I thought too much. During the period when I was away from Ji Yuntang, Huaxiu seemed to be a homebody. She stayed in the house and watched TV every day, and all she watched were soap operas. However, she never watches palace dramas. She says those dramas are too fake. Miao Fengluan asked weakly from the side, "Lu Su, can I go with you?" I was slightly startled and looked at Miao Fengluan. She quickly said, "I can help you now, and I will never hold you back." Seeing how determined Miao Fengluan was, I immediately agreed. Maybe, after the things in the underworld are over, Su Tianqian will come back to me. To be honest, Su Tianqian is not by my side, and my heart always feels empty. Although I can stand alone now, I still miss the sense of security that she brought to me by being by my side. This is what people say. It is often said that dependence. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1315. This time we went to Mount Tai, only the female slave Miao Fengluan and I went. Fortunately, Emperor Qing was there to help. Tianfu City is also some distance away from Mount Tai. Without an ID card, there is no way for women to take planes, high-speed trains, and other means of transportation. However, this does not trouble me. I can only drive there in person. However, I plan to leave tomorrow and see my third uncle before leaving. I came to my third uncle's residence. The third uncle lives in a small rental house on the outskirts of the city. I knocked on the door. After a moment, the door opened and my third uncle appeared in front of me. When he saw that the visitor was me, the third uncle seemed very happy. "Xiao Su. Come in quickly, come in quickly." Entering the room, I sat on the sofa opposite my third uncle. The third uncle looked much older during this period, but he was very energetic. I took a look at his empty arms and felt complicated. Third uncle noticed my gaze and laughed loudly. "Xiao Su, don't take it to heart, it's just a broken hand." I smiled bitterly and said, "Third uncle, I'm sorry, if I could have saved you earlier, your hand wouldn't have been broken." The third uncle said nonchalantly, "It's okay. If you, third uncle, I can survive, I will be very satisfied." "Xiao Su, do you have any business with me this time?" I shook my head and replied, "Nothing, I just wanted to come and see you. I came to see my third uncle today because I wanted to say goodbye to him. After all, this trip to Mount Tai is extremely dangerous." The third uncle was silent for a moment and said, "Xiao Su, logically speaking, I shouldn't ask more about you, but no matter what you do, you have to find a way to survive. You are the only one in my old Lu family descendants. If something happens to you, my old Lu family will really be wiped out." Hearing third uncle's words, I raised a wry smile and said, "Third uncle, life and death are determined by fate, wealth and honor. Don't worry, I will definitely live a good life. I don't know since when, I don't attach much importance to life and death. I don't know when this change started. I probably have seen too many life and death, and I have long been numb to them. It may also be because I know too many things and know the burden on my shoulders. Maybe I will really sacrifice my life for that so-called purpose. The third uncle stretched out his hand, patted my shoulder gently and said, Xiao Su, you have grown up, and you can judge some things yourself. I have something that your grandfather left for you. I think it's time to hand it over to you. Hearing this, I was slightly startled. Did my grandfather leave something for me? The third uncle returned to the bedroom, rummaged around, and found an extra talisman bag in his hand. He handed the talisman bag to me and said, Xiao Su, your grandfather told me when he was alive that he would find a suitable time to hand this thing to you, and he would save your life when you are in danger. I took the talisman bag and looked at it carefully in my hand. After looking at it for a long time, I couldn't figure out why. This talisman package is very ordinary, just like the ones you get from praying in temples. However, since my grandfather gave it to me, it must not be a mortal thing. I told my third uncle about my previous encounter with my grandfather's soul. After hearing this, the third uncle didn't have a too surprised expression on his face, as if he had known about it for a long time. Xiao Su, although your grandfather is gone, it does not mean that he has disappeared. He is just protecting you where you can't see him. Maybe you two will have a chance to meet again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1316. I didn't refute what third uncle said. Because when he saw my grandfather's soul in Penglay Island, he told me that there is still a possibility for us, grandfather and grandson, to meet each other. My third uncle and I started chatting. I looked at him alone in the huge room and said, Third uncle, you are already a grown man, so you haven't thought about finding a wife. After hearing this, the third uncle burst out laughing and said, Why do you still care about my marriage, kid? Third uncle, I'm not bragging to you. There are many women who like third uncle, and many of them are clamoring to marry me. I smiled and said, In that case, third uncle, why don't you find me an aunt? Third uncle looked at me, chuckled, and said, Third uncle, I have been used to being free and loose all my life. If you want me to find a wife, I am still not used to it. What's more, you haven't started a family yet, so I'm looking for a wife so early what? The third uncle's character is indeed free and loose, but finding a wife can cure his free and loose character. By the way, Xiao Su, is that girl Tianqian coming back soon? Uncle San suddenly asked. I nodded and replied, Well, come back soon. Third uncle, I still say the same thing. Get married to that girl Tianqian as soon as possible and give me a fat grandson. I smiled and replied, Yes. After leaving third uncle's place, I planned to return to Fate Hall. But just after leaving third uncle's residence, Cai Dai jumped out. She stood in front of me, her pretty face raised, and her big watery eyes staring at me unblinkingly. I asked, What's wrong? Cai Dai still stared at me and asked, Lu Su, have you forgotten something? I was stunned and asked, What happened? Cai Dai put her hands on her hips and said with some dissatisfaction, You promised me to buy me a computer before. But now you have forgotten all about it? I have decided. I want to run away from home. Make money to buy it myself. Hearing this sentence, I remembered what I promised Cai Dai before. However, what this little girl said makes me want to laugh so much. You ran away from home? If you ran away from home, what could you do? Kaidi snorted coldly and said, There are so many things I can do. Anyway, if you don't buy me this computer today, I will never pay attention to you again. What do you mean by that? If you want a horse to run, don't let it eat grass. This is naked exploitation. I smiled and said, okay, okay, I'll take you to buy it now. Humph. Seeing that you were in a hurry to save me, I will forgive you. Afterwards, I took Cai Dai to the mall and bought a high-end computer. The store personally sent it back to Ji Yuntang. Not only that, I also gave Nadia a mobile phone. This phone has no other purpose than playing games. Cai Dai was completely spoiled by Huaxiu. Huaxiu has now become a homebody, and her favorite thing to do every day is to watch TV dramas at home. Cai Dai, on the other hand, has become an internet-addicted girl. In her words, if she doesn't play games for a day, her heart will feel itchy. After returning to Fate Hall, I saw Ruo Hong, Huaxiu, and Miao Fengluan talking and laughing. When they saw me coming in, they quickly shut their mouths. Huaxiu came to me and said, "Brother Huang, Ruo Hong and I have decided to set off tonight." I nodded and said, "Okay, you two, please be safe on the road. If anything happens, just listen to Ruo Hong." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1317. Both of them were around 30 years old, and both wore sportswear. They must have come here specifically for travel. After all, this place is not far from Mount Tai Boss's main store. The man came to the front desk and shouted. He shouted several times but no one came out, which made the man very dissatisfied. The man's behavior is full of the temperament of a wealthy man, and the sportswear he wears is also expensive. "Husband, stop shouting. If there is no one, we can go to the car and make do for one night. This place is dirty and bad," the woman said with disgust. The man looked at his wife, but his eyes swept over Miao Fengluan. With just one glance, the man's eyes showed greedy desire. I frowned slightly. Miao Fengluan could be said to be extremely beautiful in terms of figure and appearance. Walking on the street, she would definitely be an eye-catching presence. Moreover, Miao Fengluan also has a very special temperament, that is, purity. She is like a piece of white paper that is extremely clean. I think it is very appropriate to describe Miao Fengluan in one sentence, that is, she can emerge from the mud without being stained, and she can be clean without being evil, no matter how ugly the world is. It is impossible to affect her at all. Miao Fengluan also noticed the man's gaze. She was a little timid and hid behind me. Her character is inherently taciturn, which is related to her experiences. She doesn't show much emotion or say much except to the people she knows. "Brothers, are you here for a trip?" The man came to me and asked with a smile. His mouse eyes kept looking at Miao Fengluan behind me. I glanced at him lightly, hummed, and said nothing. I didn't want to get too entangled with him. At this moment, an eerie voice suddenly sounded behind me. "How many of you want to stay in a hotel?" I turned around suddenly and saw an old lady standing behind me. The old lady's face was gloomy, her skin was as pale as marble, and her eyes were cloudy. I nodded and said, "I want to open 2 rooms." The old lady came to the front desk, registered, and handed me 2 keys. She said, "If you have nothing to do, don't go out at night. It's not peaceful here." The old lady made me feel very uncomfortable, but I could feel that she had no ill intentions toward us. "Okay, I get it." Then, I led Han Bao and Miao Fengluan to the room. I originally planned to let Miao Fengluan and Nu Ba share a room, but Nu Ba said that the corpse energy in her body would affect Miao Fengluan, so Miao Fengluan and I were asked to share a room. When Miao Fengluan heard the suggestion, her pretty face flushed, her eyes lowered, not knowing what else to think about. I originally thought about getting another room, but then I thought that this hotel was a bit dangerous, so I decided against it. When he opened the door to the room, he saw a messy scene. This kind of hotel cannot pursue comfort. It is good to sleep for one night. Miao Fengluan said to me, Let me clean up first. I nodded and Miao Fengluan started to clean up the room. After a while, I discovered that Miao Fengluan had spread a quilt on the bed on the floor. I asked with some confusion, "What are you doing?" Miao Fengluan raised her head and said to me, "I will sleep here tonight and you will sleep on the bed." "Why don't you sleep in bed?" I asked again. Miao Fengluan's next answer made me very heartwarming. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 1318. I was afraid that you would be uncomfortable sleeping on the floor, so. Hearing this, I smiled slightly and said, "How could I let you sleep on the floor? You just sleep on the bed." Miao Fengluan's little head shook like a rattle. "No, no, no. I can sleep anywhere. You don't have to worry about me. You have been driving for a day, so you must have a good rest." Miao Fengluan was very stubborn. No matter how much I tried to persuade her, she refused. Helpless, I could only put the quilt on the floor on the bed and said to Miao Fengluan, "Since you don't want to, let's sleep on this bed together. Anyway, this bed is big enough for 2 people." Miao Fengluan bit her lips lightly, with a tangled look on her face. I didn't care whether she agreed or not and directly took her hand to the bed and said, "Don't hesitate. If you can't bear to let me sleep on the floor, naturally I won't let you sleep on the floor, so this is the only way to resolve the conflict." Miao Fengluan lowered her eyes, her white hands kept rubbing the corners of her skirt, and there were 2 blushes on her pretty face. "Have a good rest. We will set off early the next morning. This hotel will not be peaceful at night." Miao Fengluan hummed softly, and then asked curiously, "Why is this hotel so unstable?" I shook my head and said that I didn't know, but my intuition told me that something should happen tonight. After a while, Miao Fengluan and I were lying on the bed, with a pillow between us. I turned around and looked at Miao Fengluan's graceful body curves, feeling a little complicated in my heart. "Fengluan," I called softly. Miao Fengluan hummed softly, but did not turn around. I continued, "I'm sorry." Miao Fengluan's delicate body trembled, and she turned around, staring at me closely with eyes as bright as stars, her eyes full of confusion. "Why are you apologizing to me all of a sudden?" I hesitated for a moment and replied, "I know how you feel about me, but I..." Miao Fengluan suddenly stretched out her white and slender jade fingers and gently touched my lips. She said softly, "Don't say, I know what you want to say." Miao Fengluan's eyes were like autumn water, and she looked at me quietly, and she said, "Lu Su, I never thought that I would leave that place. It was you who rescued me, and it was you who gave me a new life. I want to make it clear to you now. I do like you, I really like you, but, I know that no one in this world, except Master Tianqian, can be worthy of you. Master Tianqian is gentle, kind, and beautiful. I have always believed in one thing, that is, all women in this world will pale in comparison to Master Tianqian." Miao Fengluan's eyes flashed with loneliness, and she continued, "I don't ask for anything else. I just want to be by your side. I will be satisfied if I can see you every day." This was the first time that Miao Fengluan opened her heart to me and spoke her innermost thoughts. However, I am destined to fail her. I looked at her and said, "Yes, you will always be by my side. We are family, how can we be separated?" Miao Fengluan was stunned and whispered, "Family." She raised the corners of her mouth slightly, smiled sweetly, and said to me, "Then let's say it, we are family forever, and we will never be separated in this life." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 1319. Good. To me, whether it is Miao Fengluan, Huaxiu, or Cai Dai, they are all my family. My feelings for Su Tianxian destined me not to accept any woman, which also destined me and Miao Fengluan to have no results. Family, this is the best identity for Miao Fengluan and me. Miao Fengluan's face was full of surprise. She nodded heavily at me and murmured, "That's good, that's good." At this time, I didn't know how much Miao Fengluan cared about me. However, something happened in the underworld afterwards, which made me feel extremely guilty towards her. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door. I frowned and said to Miao Fengluan, "I'll open the door." Miao Fengluan nodded. I stood up, opened the door, and saw the two couples just standing in front of the door. "What's matter?" The man smiled at me, raised the plastic bag in his hand, and said, "You are also traveling to Mount Tai, right? It just so happens that we can go together. This is a specialty of my hometown. I will give it to you to taste." The man seemed very relaxed when he said this, giving the impression that he was here to make friends. However, this man must be up to something. Thinking of this, I said, "No, let's take a rest and let's talk tomorrow." The expression on the man's face froze slightly, and then he said, "Then you must hold this thing." With that said, he handed me the plastic bag. The woman looked at Miao Fengluan, who was sitting on the bed, with a sinister and malicious look in her eyes. The couple left and I closed the door. Miao Fengluan asked curiously, "What's the matter with them?" I threw the plastic bag into the trash can and said, "It's nothing." About 3 minutes later, there was a knock on the room door again. I thought it was the couple again, but when I opened the door, I saw it was the female slave. The female slave entered the room. I saw her expression was serious and asked, "What happened?" The female demon nodded and said, "Did that couple come to see you just now?" "Well, I just left." The female demon glanced at Miao Fengluan on the bed and said, "That man is trying to figure her out." I was stunned and asked, "What's going on?" The female slave told me what she had just seen. She was not in the room just now and went out for a walk after all. She had just come out of the tomb and was quite curious about everything. But when she went upstairs, she heard the couple talking. The bag of food the man just gave me contained poison. As long as Miao Fengluan and I ate it, we would be unconscious, and the man would take this opportunity to come to the room and do something inappropriate to Miao Fengluan. Hearing this, I frowned. This man really didn't have any good intentions. The female slayer looked at me lightly and asked, "Do you want me to kill him?" I shook my head and replied, "No, if he dares to come, I will definitely make him pay the price." The female demon nodded and said, "Besides this matter, I also found something strange around here." "What's weird?" The female master led me to the window, then opened the curtains, pointed outside and said, "I don't know when it started, but it suddenly started to fog outside, and there is a faint gloomy air in the fog." I looked in the direction pointed by the Enba, and found that the vast expanse of white outside was very strange. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1320. Just when I was confused, King Di's voice suddenly sounded in my ears. "What day is today?" I was slightly taken aback and replied, "Today is the first day of junior high school." Qing Di was silent for a moment and said, "That's right. On the 1st and 15th day of the lunar month, Mount Tai will open the door to the human world and the underworld, and lonely souls and wild ghosts from thousands of miles away will go to Mount Tai. This is what people often say the soul returns to Mount Tai. Moreover, this hotel also points the way to those lonely ghosts." I suddenly realized that this should be the legendary ghost passage. The Yin Soul borrowing path and the Yin Soldier borrowing path are the same, except that one is a Yin Soldier and the other is a Yin Soul. However, this does not mean that the Yin Soul borrowing path will not have the existence of Yin Soldiers. The role of the Yin soldiers is to prevent those lonely ghosts from causing trouble. King Di said to me, "Be careful and try not to have anything to do with these ghosts. If your identity is exposed because of this matter, it will be more than worth the loss." I nodded and said to the female demon, "Go back and rest. Try not to go out." The female slave hummed and then returned to her room. I don't know why, but I always feel like something bad is going to happen tonight. Time passed by minute, and I lay on the bed, drowsy. I don't know how long it took, but I suddenly felt someone poking my body. I woke up suddenly and saw Miao Fengluan sitting next to me, looking at me with a serious expression. "What's wrong?" Miao Fengluan pointed to the room next door and said, "It seems something happened next door." I frowned slightly and concentrated on listening to the noise coming from next door. The couple lived next door to us. The soundproofing effect of the room was very poor, and we could really hear the slightest noise. But after listening for a long time, I couldn't hear anything. I looked at Miao Fengluan and asked in a low voice, "What did you hear just now?" Miao Fengluan replied, "I just heard a scream, and then there was the sound of something cutting." In short, it was very permeating. The sound of cutting something. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door. I stood up suddenly and came to the door, hesitating whether to open the door. Suddenly, there was a strong smell of blood in the air. I subconsciously looked down and saw scarlet blood seeping out of the gap under the door. King Di's voice came from my ears. "Okay, if someone wants to harm you, open the door and take a look." Someone wants to harm me? This time, I didn't hesitate at all and opened the door. I wanted to see who wanted to harm me. With a creak, the door opened, and the scene in front of me made my pupils tremble slightly. I saw a human head lying on the corridor in front of me. I also know the owner of this head, it is that man. The man's eyes were wide open, full of fear, and scarlet blood hung on his face, which was bloody and terrifying. I knelt down and looked at the head. The cross-section of the human head and neck is very irregular, as if it had been cut with a knife. At this time, I suddenly remembered what Miao Fengluan had just said to me. She said she heard the sound of cutting things. Could it be that the sound was someone dismembering bodies? Miao Fengluan came to my side and was shocked when she saw the scene in front of her. "Don't be afraid, I want to see who wants to harm me."